There is a strange kind of financial stress that does not make much sense from the outside. You have a decent job. Your income is higher than it used to be. The bills are getting paid. You are not facing an immediate crisis. And yet, before buying something ordinary, you still check your bank account. You hesitate before agreeing to dinner. A car repair makes the entire month feel unstable. And a quiet question keeps following you around. How am I earning this much and still feeling stuck? Most people assume the answer must be obvious. Maybe you spend too much. Maybe you are not disciplined enough. Maybe you simply need a stricter budget. But I do not think the real answer is that simple. Good earners are rarely trapped by one dramatic financial mistake. They are usually trapped by a collection of quiet habits. Habits that seem reasonable on their own, habits that do not look irresponsible, habits that barely feel like habits at all. And that is exactly why they are so difficult to notice. Let me tell you about someone I will call David. David was 40 years old, earning around $80,000 a year. A few years earlier, he had been earning closer to $50,000. Back then, he thought about money constantly. He checked prices at the grocery store. He delayed repairs. He kept his old phone longer than he wanted. Whenever something unexpected happened, even something small, he felt the entire month tighten around him. David believed a higher salary would finally give him room to breathe. If he could just reach a certain number, he thought the pressure would disappear. And eventually, he reached it. He changed companies, he negotiated a better offer, and he received the kind of salary his younger self would have considered successful. For a while, it felt like a turning point. David replaced his unreliable car with a newer one. Nothing luxurious, just something safer and more dependable. He moved into a better apartment closer to work. The new location shortened his commute and gave him a quieter place to sleep. He started ordering food more often because he was regularly working late. He upgraded a few subscriptions. He helped his parents with certain expenses, and he stopped worrying about every small purchase. None of these decisions seemed reckless. In fact, most of them improved his life. But 2 years later, David noticed something uncomfortable. His income had increased significantly. The space in his financial life had not. Before the raise, he needed around $3,500 a month to maintain his life. After the raise, that number was closer to $5,500. His income was larger, but so were the consequences of losing it. This is where many good earners misunderstand what is happening. They assume they still have an income problem because they still feel financial pressure. But often, the deeper issue is that income grows while financial commitments quietly grow beside it. The human mind adapts to improvement very quickly. Something that once felt like a luxury begins to feel normal. Then normal begins to feel necessary. The better apartment is no longer an upgrade. It is home. The reliable car is no longer a convenience. It is the minimum standard you are willing to accept. Ordering food is no longer a treat. It becomes how you survive an exhausting week. And this does not mean you are spoiled. It means you are human. We get used to better conditions. Once we do, those conditions stop producing the same feeling of progress. A salary increase feels exciting for a few months, then it becomes the number your life is built around. And once your life has expanded, to meet that number, earning more no longer feels like progress. It feels like maintenance. One of the quietest habits keeping good earners stuck is treating every increase in income as permission to upgrade something permanent. The important word here is permanent. A celebratory dinner after receiving a raise is unlikely to change your financial future. A larger monthly commitment might. An extra $400 in rent may not feel enormous when your monthly income has increased by $1,000. A new car payment may appear manageable. A few additional subscriptions feel almost invisible. Then insurance rises, utilities rise, groceries become more expensive. A family member needs help. And suddenly, most of the raise has been assigned a job before you ever decided what you wanted it to do. Good earners often do not waste their raises. They commit them, and commitments are more powerful than occasional spending because they follow you into the future. You can stop buying coffee tomorrow. You cannot casually remove yourself from a lease, a car loan, or a lifestyle that other people now depend on. This is why two people with the same income can experience completely different levels of financial safety. Imagine one person earns $8,000 a month and requires $7,500 to maintain their life. Another person earns $5,000 and requires $3,500. The first person appears more successful. The second person may have more room to breathe. Financial pressure is not determined only by how much money comes in. It is also shaped by how much of that income is already spoken for. But fixed expenses are only part of the story. There's another pattern beneath this. Many good earners use money to recover from a life that is consuming too much energy, and this may be one of the least discussed parts of personal finance. A tired person spends differently from a rested person. When your workday has drained your attention, cooking does not feel like a simple financial decision. It feels like one more demand. When your week has been stressful, buying something small does not always feel like consumption. It feels like relief. And when you barely have time to yourself, convenience becomes one of the few things money can purchase immediately. So you order the food, you pay for faster delivery, you take the more expensive ride, you upgrade the service, you buy something on Friday because the week felt unfair, and you want one part of your life to feel good. None of this makes you foolish. It means spending has started performing an emotional job. The problem is that money is not always very good at that job. It can reduce friction for an evening, it can create a brief feeling of reward, but it cannot consistently repair exhaustion, lack of control, or dissatisfaction with your daily life. When spending becomes a form of recovery, your financial plan is fighting against a deeper emotional need. This is why simply telling someone to cut back often fails. You are asking them to remove one of the only forms of relief they currently have, but you are not addressing the life that made the relief necessary. David eventually noticed that many of his expenses appeared at the end of difficult work days. The restaurant charges were not random. The small online purchases were not random. The expensive conveniences were not random. They were connected to fatigue. David did not have a spending problem in the traditional sense. He had built a life that regularly required spending to make it tolerable. And once he understood that, the solution changed. He did not need to feel more ashamed about ordering dinner. He needed to ask why preparing dinner had become impossible 5 nights a week. Sometimes the most useful financial question is not how can I spend less? Sometimes the better question is what is happening in my life right before I spend? There is another quiet habit that keeps good earners stuck, avoiding clear financial information because uncertainty feels safer than disappointment. It sounds strange, but it is incredibly common. A person may earn a good income and still avoid calculating their net worth. They may not know exactly how much they spend each month. They may keep subscriptions because canceling them would require admitting how little they use them. They may delay opening their retirement account because they are afraid of discovering that they are behind. They are not ignoring money because they do not care. They are ignoring it because they care so much that the truth feels emotionally heavy. As long as the numbers remain vague, there is still a possibility that everything is probably fine. Clarity removes that possibility, but clarity also gives you something uncertainty never can: a starting point. David had separate accounts. He had a workplace retirement plan, he had a car loan and several monthly payments, but he had never placed everything onto one page. He knew his salary, he knew approximately what was in his checking account, but he did not understand the complete structure of his financial life. So every decision had to be made through emotion. Could he afford a holiday? Probably. Was he saving enough? Maybe. Could he survive 6 months without work? He had no idea. That uncertainty made even small purchases feel emotionally expensive. He was not only paying for the item, he was also paying for the fear that the item might be evidence of a larger problem. This is one reason financial clarity can feel calming even when the numbers are not perfect. The mind often handles a known problem better than an undefined threat. Once you know what your life costs, what you owe, what you have saved, and where your money is going, you no longer need to renegotiate your entire financial identity every time you buy groceries. Another pattern appears when good earners confuse affordability with sustainability. Affordability asks, can I make this payment? Sustainability asks, can I make this payment while still building the life I want? Those are not the same question. A bank may approve the loan, a dealership may show you a comfortable monthly payment, a landlord may accept your application. But none of those things means the decision leaves enough room for emergencies, investing, career changes, family responsibilities, or rest. Many good earners are technically able to afford almost everything in their lives, but they cannot afford all of it at the same time without giving up flexibility. And flexibility is one of the most valuable things money can create. It allows you to leave a harmful job. It allows you to help someone without damaging your own stability. It allows you to handle an emergency without immediate panic. It allows you to make decisions based on what feels right rather than what produces the next paycheck fastest. But flexibility is invisible. No one sees the apartment you decided not to upgrade. No one notices the car payment you avoided. There's no public symbol for having 12 months of living expenses saved. Financial security often looks unimpressive from the outside. That makes it psychologically difficult to choose. Visible upgrades give us immediate feedback. A nicer home feels different the moment you enter it. A new car feels different the moment you drive it. A larger financial buffer may sit quietly in an account and appear to do nothing. But that apparent inactivity is the point. A financial buffer is not failing because you have not used it. It is buying you distance from fear. And I think this is the turning point. Good earners do not usually become financially unstuck by becoming dramatically more disciplined. They become unstuck when they stop asking only whether they can afford their life, and they begin asking whether their life is creating trust. Do you trust that one unexpected bill will not undo the month? Do you trust that losing your job would be difficult but survivable? Do you trust yourself to make a purchase without feeling guilty for the next 3 days? Do you trust that part of your next raise will remain yours rather than immediately becoming another obligation? Financial progress is partly mathematical, but the feeling of safety comes from repeated evidence that you can protect your future options. For David, the change did not begin with an extreme budget. He did not cancel everything enjoyable. He did not move into the cheapest apartment he could find. He did not treat every purchase as a personal failure. Instead, he separated his financial life into 3 simple areas: what was fixed, what was flexible, and what was quietly happening because he was exhausted. He discovered that the biggest problem was not any single purchase. It was that almost every increase in income had been followed by an increase in commitment. So when his next raise arrived, he did something different. He allowed part of the raise to improve his current life, but he protected another part before his lifestyle had time to absorb it. He increased the automatic transfer into his savings. He raised his retirement contribution slightly, and he made those changes immediately. Not because he was trying to be perfect, but because money that remains unassigned tends to be claimed by whatever feels urgent next. David also stopped treating every inconvenience as something that needed to be solved with money. Some conveniences were worth keeping. The apartment close to work genuinely gave him time back. The reliable car genuinely reduced stress, but some expenses were symptoms of a schedule that needed to change. He began protecting a few evenings from work. He planned simple meals instead of expecting himself to prepare perfect ones. He stopped expecting himself to behave like a highly organized person after a 10-hour day. His spending fell slightly, but something more important happened. His spending stopped feeling mysterious. He understood what the money was doing, and that changed his relationship with it. In real life, applying this does not require a complicated system. It begins with noticing what expands whenever your income expands, not judging it, just noticing which costs have become permanent, which purchases are helping you recover from stress, which expenses genuinely improve your life, and which ones merely prevent you from feeling how tired or dissatisfied you have become. It also helps to understand the minimum cost of your current life, not the perfect month, not the month where nothing goes wrong, the honest number required to pay for housing, transportation, food, insurance, debt, and the people who depend on you. That number matters because it shows how dependent your life has become on your current income. Then there is the habit of giving future income increases a purpose before they arrive. Without a plan, A raise feels like open space, and open space rarely stays empty. You do not have to save every additional dollar. That can make progress feel like punishment. But protecting part of the increase can prevent a higher income from becoming nothing more than a more expensive version of the same financial pressure. The goal is not to live as cheaply as possible. The goal is to build a life where income creates options rather than only obligations. There's nothing wrong with improving your standard of living. Money should make parts of life easier. It should buy comfort. It should buy time. It should create safety. It should support meaningful experiences. But those improvements should not quietly consume the very freedom you hoped the income would create. You may be earning more than you ever have and still feel behind. That does not automatically mean you have failed. It may simply mean your habits adapted to your income before your sense of security had time to grow, and that can be changed. Not overnight, not through one perfect month, but through small decisions that leave more of your future uncommitted. A little more space between what you earn and what you require, a little more clarity around where your money goes, a little less dependence on spending to recover from your life. Over time, that space becomes evidence that a difficult month does not have to become a crisis, evidence that a raise can improve your future, not only your present, evidence that you are not as trapped as you once felt. Progress with money is rarely about making the perfect decision every time. It is about creating enough room that one imperfect decision no longer has the power to frighten you. And sometimes that is what financial progress really looks like. Not more money arriving, but more of your life finally remaining yours.